kind of being a bit evasive on what he wanted to argue about. So I just said like, okay, maybe we can argue about these things and you can just take it or leave it, right? Well, first question, when and what kind of armed resistance is justified? Any. Like, what the fuck, man? Should we support Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis? Do you support slave revolts? I'm like, fucking hell, dude. You're a sick fuck. What? Like, bro, you're literally any. What? You can just like, even if you just murder like only civilians, that's still justified resistance. Like, what the fuck? The projection, man. Holy long form conversation like this. We'll see, we'll see. Come on, Loner, get gupping.
Stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
Let's see what Hassan's been up to since this DC shooting. On the evening of May 21st, that was 2 days ago, 2 staff members outside of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. No, sorry, 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy were tragically shot and killed outside of a Capital Jewish museum. The victims, Yaron Lishinsky and Israeli diplomat Sarah Lynn Milgram, an American citizen, were a couple planning to get engaged. The suspect, Elias Rodriguez, a 31-year-old from Chicago, allegedly opened fire on the couple as they were leaving a diplomatic event hosted by the American Jewish Committee. Rodriguez shouted, "Free, free Palestine." It's on. There's a video of it. During his arrest, and allegedly told the police, "I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza." Rodriguez has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder under. Yeah. Anyway, he's been charged. They arrested him. Yada
Wait.
yada.
Why am
The
I doing this?
FBI
Oh,
is
sorry.
investigating
Take
it
a
as
left.
a hate crime, which I love. It's like,
We're not sure.
Don't fall off the cliff.
it's a tough
Don't fall
one
off
to
the
call.
cliff.
So obviously, as soon as this happened, there was going to be a lot of finger pointing, right? And a lot of shirking of responsibility. Obviously, this is exactly what me and a lot of people have been talking about. That when Hassan and iDubbbz look me in the fucking face as non-Jewish people and tell me that I'm hallucinating threats, that I'm hallucinating anti-Semitism, this is exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. And these were 2 young Israeli,
Don't die.
a
Don't
young
jump
Israeli
off the
couple.
lift.
This shooter went there and shot 2 people at random. He went outside the Jewish museum, who was having an event that.
They're saying this shooting wasn't random now. People are saying that he went in and mingled and found out that these 2 were like connected to the embassy and then shot them. If that's what he did, that's fucking insane. The fact that he like scouted them out. I guess, did he ask their opinions or? Yeah, God, that's wild.
Night, and he just killed the first 2 people outside of it that were coming out from the event. So this whole narrative that that it's just not anti-Semitic because is bullshit. He could have easily just killed some American Jews that had nothing to do with Israel, but he happened to kill 2 Israelis, which makes it apparently, if you ask a lot of people online, totally fine.
I was reading they were going to get engaged
Next week. Yeah,
Yep.
Israel.
Beautiful young couple, honestly, very, and the details of it is just horrific. Like when
Yes.
it's one thing to read and be like, they were murdered and that's horrible, but then you read like he went up, he shot them in the back, and then the girl was trying to crawl away. And he went up and shot her in the
this not
head
his
twice.
conversation?
And then the
This
guy
segment?
stood up and tried
it's
to
not. He talks here.
help her. And
Talks here.
really interesting.
Actually, wait, we'll see what he's.
How old are we living
for a
it?
bit.
Hassan has one of his Jewish tokens he keeps around, who he restored.
Not
who's like,
Hassan.
I refuse to admit this was anti-Semitism. This was a reaction to Israel's apartheid. It's like, bro, it happened outside of a Jewish museum. 2 random people were killed. What the fuck do you need to know? Like, what more do you need to know? It's so pathetic, bro. And this is what I knew from the very beginning. Like you said, when we first had that conversation with this guy laughing.
Right now, Houthis? Wait, what? Did the Houthis, are they firing rockets? Or what do you mean right now, Houthis? What do they do? What'd they do?
About a bunch of innocent kids being raped and murdered by terrorist group. And Hassan sitting there and being like, I don't know enough to say.
And this was before Israel even reacted.
That's it. That's the part too that you always have to consider. Is people say, "Oh, this is just because of what Israel's done."
Mm-hmm.
Then how do you explain October 8th?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you explain the middle of the night, October 7th, when Frogan's saying shit like, "This is just revolution. This is what revolution looks like." You know, this is the natural progression of the type of language that all of these people are using.
It's really dangerous language.
And by the way, this is one event that's happened. And honestly, it seems likely that more is going to be happening. And it really depends on how people react to it. Because a lot of people are, like they love to say, manufacturing consent. How far does this go?
This is an old video because they're talking about the DC shootings here, right? They're not talking about the Colorado fucking Molotov cocktail attack. All right.
No, who's a valid target exactly? And do we trust these people who are out there murdering people to make a distinction between Zionists and Jews? Do you think that they're making that calculation as they pull up to a Jewish museum and just unload on a young couple who just walked out of the building? Well, and then not only to unload, but to fucking walk up to them and execute them as they beg for their life, fight for their life. You know what I mean? What are we doing, guys? What are we doing?
I've seen Hassan also say, like, I think maybe it was in relation to when he was conflating what you said. You said the Jewish history in the Middle East, and he was like, what Israeli history in the Middle East? He was doing it on purpose. And then he goes on to say, Israel heritage is only apartheid, death and destruction, genocide. That's all they are. And that is so dangerous.
That's one half of it, right?
Saying that, to me, it's like, okay, I need to watch my back everywhere I go because I'm Israeli.
Dude, Jewish people are afraid in this country.
That is so dangerous to say that.
It's funny for people who are not Jewish to laugh in my fucking face. Like when I made a message that was like, just so you guys know, that could have been me and Ela, or basically any other Jewish couple that you know that just happens to be there. And Hassan's response is, leave it to Ethan to make this all about himself.
Oh no. Whoa, shit.
Like, and that's acceptable statement to make in the wake of a violent tragedy, a violent, hateful tragedy, right? To express that I don't feel safe. And by the way, I don't. Because the way that people talk about me and Ela being fucking terrorists, baby killers, propagandists, genociders, right? Everything bad that you could say. They say as far as if you tell from the people who talk about me, I'm as bad as it gets. Mm-hmm. I'm not even like a little pro-Israel. I'm like a fucking, it's like I strangling babies with my own bare hands if I could.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to the left. Like what happened to inclusion, to understanding different backgrounds and different cultures.
Bro, it's even
like
worse.
I did the army. You know how long ago it is now? It's almost 20 years ago that I did the army.
Yeah, because you were a kid.
I was
you're
18
an adult,
and
you're
I'm
grown
going to turn 38 this year.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago.
Of course. And so, like, of course I don't feel safe because of what you people are saying about me. Because of everything you guys are saying. And if somebody's convinced enough to go outside of this and kill 2 random people, why the fuck shouldn't somebody feel comfortable coming to my house and killing me and my fucking family? Am I crazy? Are you actually going to look me in the face and say I'm crazy for being afraid of that happening? Who would look me in the face and say that's not something I should worry about? You think this guy coming up to my house and killing me and Ela would feel any different? Do you think that the reaction online would be any different?
No, I know what the reaction will look like.
So what are we working towards here? What exactly is the goal here?
That's the problem.
What is the goal of this movement exactly? Not the Free Palestine movement, which has a noble goal, but this online leftist, fucking violent, obsessed. And you look at the behavior, you look at the history of leftists calling for violence, which I showed in the content nuke. They do it openly on Twitch.
Are you debating Pisco soon? Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know how much we disagree on, but I think he's got a different position on the Hassan thing. Let me see. See what he's saying. Where is he? Fuck. Okay.
And without being punished. Ooh. Mike from PA literally said, the only way to get to me is to make
yes or no.
give me till I'm bleeding from my mouth.
Right.
He said that on Twitch and he wasn't
no
punished.
punishment.
He was not punished. This fucking...
And what happens every time they're not punished? They double down.
And then guess what Mike said when these guys got killed?
Mike.
He says it was a psyop.
Fucking
yeah.
Mike.
No, dude.
It's
because of the shit you're saying. It's...
I have never seen Hassan apologize for anything. I've never seen him apologize for anything or take anything back or say, you know what, that was too far.
Never. Honestly,
That's irresponsible.
I can't find a single time he's done that.
Because he never gets punished, so he just doubles down, triples down, quadruples down.
Same with all of his, you know, and his orbiters who have something to prove are even worse. Like Mike literally said, Ethan will never learn till he's bleeding from his mouth.
Yeah.
And there was no punishment for that. And then a week later, 2 random Jewish passerbyers outside the Jewish Museum are murdered in cold blood. And his reaction is, it's a psyop.
I can't believe people are calling it that. I see false flag too. That's
Hassan suggested it too. I've got it all here. By the way, some ordinary gamer, Mudahar, said, I found that statement dumb. What you were saying was similar to if a Muslim had said they feel unsafe after the Christchurch shooting. Who the fuck would tell them, stop trying to be a victim?
Uh-huh. Well, you know what? Sometimes...
Thank you, Mudahar, for the comment.
Thank you. Sometimes
Thank you, Mudahar.
Older Jewish Israeli people, they'll say Jews are not allowed to cry, which that's what this is about. They don't... You're not allowed to say your problems, talk about your problems.
Well,
people don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I see this.
It's where this statement comes from.
There's this Goebbels Nazi propaganda line that I start to see all the time. That's like a Jew, the Jew hits you and cries out in pain. Like that's, you know.
So it's like when you're talking about
that's Nazi shit.
Oh, what a way to make it about yourself. Or like they're always
that's Nazi
something.
shit.
Yeah.
He's doing that fucking, he's doing that. The Jew hits you and cries out.
Jews are not allowed to cry.
To be fair, a lot of pro-Zionists say exactly the same thing about Palestinians, but okay.
So what
like
that statement
the
is.
Blatant.
I guess the Jews didn't really... There wasn't really any Jewish groups that did that to the Nazis, but yeah, maybe they're different.
This violent anti-Semitism that is oozing off these people. If you can't see it,
Goebbels. I love the way Americans say
then
Goebbels.
We're basically just going. I mean,
where
are we going?
It feels like where it was during the war and the Holocaust. It's reminiscent of that time.
It's crazy to see.
Well, because
you can see how it happened. I've always said, like, I have no idea how the Holocaust could happen. It just makes no sense. And now I see it. I see how it happened.
It's not that there's like so much wanton violence against Jews happening, although there is an insane rise in hate crime against Jews in America and around the world. It's the consent. It's the ease. It's the comfortability that people have with violence against Dehumanizing language, being platformed mainstream,
and seeing
being
it
platformed by New York Times.
Yeah, exactly.
By the CEO of Twitch saying this is his favorite creator.
Yeah, seeing it on all levels.
The people are comfortable with the idea, and as people get more comfortable, guess what's going to happen? Watch this. By the way, Hassan just erased his entire Discord.
Yeah, I saw people say that that's something they do kind of regularly.
He's done it a few times, but now is pretty funny time.
Why?
He let's see. He tells his chat who.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, he tells his chat, by the way, who when he's reading the shooter's manifesto, he put his chat in emoji only mode. And even then, by the way, they were able to express support for the shooter. And by the way, Hassan managed to do more to support this shooter's dignity than me. Mm-hmm. It was only after I confronted him that he put it in a chat emoji mode.
Chatter, are you crazy? Chatter goes, yo, use this.
It is unfair that we lose content anytime the Houthis shoot missiles here. You should do something about it. Oh, what are the Houthis lobbing rockets over at you? What? And you have to pause the stream because you get rocketed. Just pause it and then 1.5x it. It's your counter-terror measures. We have them in place. Don't make me go over there.
Health warning.
Bro, fucking Houthis, man. Why? I guess it's because no one is ever going to go boots on the ground in Yemen, and there's no sizable group that's ever going to actually dislodge the Houthis, so they can kind of just do that forever if they want to, which is quite mad.
This is your blast off meme. No, I'm not gonna do that, okay? Missed therapy appointment, so now I have to pay extra, and we're here. What is this? You about to
Where
be
are all these
arrested
fucking
for
eggs,
what?
bro?
Having a fucking fat cock? Don't think that's illegal.
Whoa,
You about
shit.
True.
Where
All
am I?
right.
Up here.
Osama bin Ballin blast off. Can you get through the news before 3 p.m. when I see the new Mission Impossible streamer, man? No. Should I use Tyrese
Did I fuck-
Halaban?
I fucked this timestamp, didn't I? I think it's going to go to the conversation soon. This is just them
Should I
talking
do
about the
that?
fucking DC shooting. God. What a professional streamer, guys.
I don't.
Look out.
No, dude, I can't. Yeah, I'm not gonna use this,
What the
dude.
fuck?
Y'all are so stupid. Give me. Okay, guys, this is not like. This is not a time to be fucking. It's not a time for you to say fun, wild, edgy things. Okay, there are probably 1,000 people in the chat currently.
Fun, wild, edgy things like supporting the shooter. That's so fucking mad, man. What a state. Oh, no.
Documenting every single thing that you guys are saying in an effort to basically tie it back to me and
Notice it's not don't do this because it's
Not
wrong.
because it's wrong.
It's don't do it so that we don't look bad.
So we don't
So
get
we
caught.
don't look like we are.
So we-
You don't see who we actually are.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, the Discord's not public facing, although I think anyone can join it. But there's a reason they erased that. They just nuked the whole fucking thing.
this community and rob it of its context or anything like that.
Oh yeah, the context, sure.
And to try to get me fucking deplatformed. Like lock in. Stop fed
Lock in.
posting.
Stop
it's not
fed
time for
posting.
Fed
memes.
posting.
Just because you're anonymous doesn't mean you will stay anonymous. All this stuff. Okay.
Hold the terrorist sympathies until after the show is over. Thank you.
We got a lot of eyes on us, so
Literally mob shit. Hey guys, keep it. Don't spend the money for a couple years.
you know.
They're gonna track the cash.
I didn't even know what Fed posting until I saw this stuff, and then people explained that
Yeah.
you know it's like kind of like you're incriminating everybody.
Our guest is here. I have more clips to show. Is he? We can.
Oh,
I
here
can
he
just
is.
talk to
There
him,
we
and then
go.
we'll finish when we're
Yeah.
done with him. But yeah, I have a really interesting guest. Let's bring him on. His name is, once again, Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib, and I'll have him tell you about his background. But he's a peace activist, a Palestinian peace activist, someone who I've been following for a while with great admiration, because he, kind of like me, all this guy does. There he is. I'll let him speak for himself. Hello, Ahmed. How are you? Thanks for calling.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me on.
Hello.
I'm very grateful for the perspective that you've brought to this from the very beginning, because I think I'm like you. I'm someone who's in favor of peace, who's in favor of Palestinian liberty.
What do you think of Ahmed Alkhatib? I've only seen a few tweets, but there's not really anything it seemed like I disagree wildly with. I don't really know what his Realign for Palestine project is all about. Like, it seems like they're just Like, I don't really know what activism they're engaged with, because it just seems to be like sloganeering and articles, but I haven't looked that far into it. I don't know if they actually do things, like they organize events or things in the region. But yeah.
Liberation who hates Hamas, right? But also doesn't think that like it's a good idea to erase it. You know, the genocidal language that they deploy, that the co-signing the violence that you're seeing now, and it's like anyone who's isn't black and white just gets absolutely, you know, annihilated in the court of public opinion these days. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely, man. As someone from Gaza, someone who's lost family members, someone who has actual war injuries from having grown up in the Gaza Strip, the fact that I'm able to, and people talk about nuance, but no one actually walks the talk. No one actually understands what nuance means. No one wants to hold multiple truths. No one wants to talk about the fact that you can be pro the Palestinian people's just and urgent aspirations, while also rejecting an Islamist death cult that has been a complete disaster for the Palestinian people, far more than it has been a deadly menace for the Israelis. Yes, of course, it has been for Israelis in the 1990s during the Oslo process, in the 2000s with the Second Intifada, certainly with the rockets when they took over, and then October 7th. But I would argue that Hamas has been a far more menacing threat to the very existence and welfare of the Palestinian people. And trying to hold those multiple truths immediately erases my heritage, my pride of my Palestinian background. I'm a spy, I'm a Zionist, I'm a traitor, I'm a sellout, I'm a bootlicker, I'm all of those things. And I've appreciated the fact that you, among other allies across both the Jewish community and non-Jewish community, have really been seeking to bolster those of us who are trying our best to be pragmatic, be moderates, be reasonable, be about our people's rights without promoting terrorism, which is very sexy nowadays among some in the circles, which is despicable.
You know, one thing that after October 7th that really shook me, was completely unexpected, was the outward support for Hamas, like immediately after. Because like I always had this understanding, like, oh, everybody knows they're like evil and they're bad guys and they're terrorists, right? But then after October 7th, I had my co-host Hassan Piker. I came on here to be like, dude, isn't this crazy? And he's unable to say a bad thing about them. The audience is it seems to be in full support of Hamas, and I didn't even consider that a possibility. I was like, a completely reality shattering for me when I saw that, and it's continued since then. It's really something,
Well, you just hit on basically why I decided to put myself forth. I worked for an international philanthropic organization and research organization focused on Africa before October 7th for the last 8 years. And I've maintained my contact with Gaza ever since I came here, and we can get into elements of my story later. But while I've been on and off involved with what you would call the mainstream pro-Palestine movement, I had stepped away. But I was shocked myself that in the past, at least, there was the pretense, and I'll be honest with you, like, there was the pretense, a goodwill effort, or at least a recognition of saying, well, I'm not down with Hamas, but the blockade. Well, I'm not down with Hamas, but Israeli policies. Well, no, I'm with the Palestinian people. I don't support Hamas or... and there were...
Yes, this guy works for Atlantic Council. I think they're funded by the U.S. State Department and something else. But yeah, I mean, I've read a few articles from the Atlantic Council, especially like their ones on Syria, but I don't really know if I've ever had an issue with anything that they've written. Couldn't say.
Tears of that, right? And then on October 7th, I would say something flipped, something really shifted. But I want to share though, before October 7th, going way back, there were elements of supporters for Hamas throughout the movement, but it was generally understood.
They had to keep it low key.
Precisely, keep it low key, and they were genuinely I believed the smaller elements. So, for example,
right
in the first war, I was, I'm 35 right now. I was 18 in 2008, 2009. I remember, and I was always, very good in like public talking, and I was always making, compelling case for why what's happening in Gaza is unjust, etc. I remember vividly in San Francisco, a reporter asking me, well, what do you think about these rockets that Hamas is shooting? They're indiscriminate, they're terrible. And I remember answering the reporter, of course I'm against Hamas's rockets and I'm against random acts of violence. And that's not what the Palestinian people want, because Gazans don't want Hamas. And even back then, they didn't want these unmasked dudes. They just show up next to your house. They put up this launching pad, silly launching pad. They shoot off the missile, and then Israeli aircraft come and just, like destroy the whole area. And so that was like when I was growing up, man. But when I was growing up in Gaza, it wasn't the rockets. They used to have mortars in there, and people hated when Hamas or Islamic Jihad.
Yeah, it gotta be terrifying when they set that up next to your house or wherever you live.
Exactly. So like it was a universally loathed thing, and people were like, so what? Like, what are you going to do? And then meanwhile, Israeli surveillance drones are overhead, the Apaches, the F-16s. So like, through my lived experience, through my contact with people in Gaza, through the understanding that since Hamas took over in 2007, they accelerated the use of civilian areas for this action. So I was able, even as an 18-year-old, to say, well, yeah, of course I'm against these rockets. And the way Israel's conducting this,
right,
and that, and yada, yada, I was immediately pulled to the side. I'll never forget this, by one of the organizers of the someone who was at the time working through the Answer Coalition. The Answer Coalition have been around forever. And they were like, Ahmed, that was terrible. Don't ever do that again. You always pivot away from talking about Hamas and the rockets. You always make it about Israel. I was like, okay, wait, but I did talk about Israel, but I legitimately expressed a sentiment that I know people in Gaza and Gaza, like, I talk to my friends. No, it doesn't matter.
He said it both ways.
Always stay on point. Keep the focus on Israel. Hamas is irrelevant in this whole. I was like, wait, but literally the conflict is happening because Hamas started all these. Like, I talk to my friends. No, it doesn't matter about Israel, but I legitimately expressed a sentiment that I know people in Gaza and Gaza, like, I talk to my friends. No, it doesn't matter. You always.
He's code switching. He's bilingual. He 50-50'd it. All right.
Always stay on point. Keep the focus on Israel. Hamas is irrelevant in this whole. I was like, wait, but literally the conflict is happening because Hamas started all these things. Like, come on, guys. Like, so that was the first crack for me. I was like, really? We're going to engage in dishonesty just to be, but I didn't think much of it at the time. And I was like, okay, whatever, that's one person. And I continued to seek to do this pragmatic approach of saying, look, Hamas is like bad, like Hamas is terrible. And I would get some funny looks, but for the most part, people didn't really give me a hard time or push back. But what I would say is that since October 7th, there's been a complete shift, man.
Right.
And I have I have a couple of theories to that. I think one of them is that since October 7th, there's been a complete shift, man. And I have I have a couple of theories to that. I think one of them is that since October 7th, there's been a complete shift, man. And I have I have a couple of theories to that. I think one of them is that since October 7th, there's been a complete shift, man. And I have I have a couple of theories to that. I think one of them I mean, it's been like what, almost 10 years from October 7th since the last major war. And like that's enough time for enough of the younger generations of Arab Americans, Palestinian Americans, the pro-Palestine, the Muslim Americans, the pro-Palestine movement writ large. So you have a new kind of wave of younger generations. But the other theory is that I actually think because of the success, I mean, and I'm putting that in quotes, success, it was horrible, it was a disaster, but the initial success of the attack of October 7th, I genuinely think that some people were like, oh, well, maybe armed resistance isn't so bad. Maybe it can work against a much more powerful adversary like Israel. Little did they know that like within 8 hours, like the Israelis were starting to push back and then the bombardment began. So like it was a complete failure. And then number 3, and this is where I get in the most trouble because people start thinking that I'm somehow this like far right crazy. Like I'm not. Like I'm not far right. I'm not far left. Like I'm a middle of the road. And me personally, I'll be honest with you, I'm a Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. So, but nevertheless, I actually think the pro-Palestine community and movement neatly plugged into a lot of the insanity of some of the extreme woke left. And I'm not saying
the wokes. Left, that's you guys.
I'm not saying that I'm coming from a like necessarily a MAGA perspective. I'm just saying that the broader environment, the 10 years since, you know, the 2014 big war in Gaza versus 2023, almost 10 years later,
the woke left.
Things in the Western world, and particularly in the United States, are
Derek, thanks for the tier 2 sub. Fuck me, I'm just looking. I don't know why these people behave like this. It's such a... It's so fucking irrational. So this dude was this fucking corn fucker was not really giving me any... was kind of being a bit evasive on what he wanted to argue about. So I just said like, okay, maybe we can argue about these things and you can just take it or leave it, right? First question, when and what kind of armed resistance is justified? Any. Like, what the fuck, man? Should we support Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis? Do you support slave revolts? I'm like, fucking hell, dude. You're a sick fuck. What? Like, bro, you're literally any. What? You can just like, even if you just murder like only civilians, that's still justified resistance. Like, what the fuck? The projection, man. Holy. I don't think that guy's going to talk. It's very unlikely. Because he kind of... the last big debate that I saw him have was with Destiny, and he was... It was probably the easiest debate topic ever against Destiny. It was literally like toxicity on Twitch, right? Toxicity on Twitch, YouTube, streamer world. And he flopped it. Imagine debating Destiny on toxicity and flopping it. Like, it's unreal. So yeah, I think he, and just giving that to him as well, that out of that performance. He debated President Sunday on religion. I remember that, yeah. I think he got trounced there as well, but, oh well.
Are different. Such that, you know, like, we don't have critical race theory in Palestine. We have now critical Palestine theory. And that is the Palestinians have no agency. There's no accountability. Okay, what they did on October 7th was an inevitability. And that's why I call that the inevitability fraud. That October 7th was an inevitability when it wasn't. And so that's where I was really surprised that on day 2 or 3, there were these mass protests.
Right.
Effectively celebrating it and at the same time calling it a genocide.
Right. Yeah. And so, you know, what strikes me is the difference between what appears to be the difference between what the people in Gaza actually want and advocate for, and then what Western leftists are being like, actually, no, you guys need to fight till you're all dead. Like it's just, it strikes me as so deeply ironic. And like you said, there's a bigotry of low expectations where it's like, of course these people are going to act like barbarians. Of course they're going to want to be violent. Of course they're going to be like this. It's like, no, that doesn't, it doesn't. How, it's like, how little do you think of them that you think that they have to act out in this way? Like, it's one thing to say, I understand why they're doing it. I understand the mentality of how they got there and how they got radicalized. But this presumption that, like, of course, it's in, like you were saying, the inevitability of fraud, it's that. Of being like, of course they're going to have to, like, go slaughter a bunch of civilians. What do you expect? And it's like, that can't be true.
Precisely that, brother. And I mean, I was on a YouTube show with a famous, European, let's not mention names. I don't like to mention names, but I was a famous economist. And he's like, he knows best because those Europeans, they're going to tell me as a Gazan what time it is. And he was like, well, of course the Palestinians in Gaza are going to act, his words, verbatim, this is a quote. Of course the Gazans are going to act like animals.
Yeah, he said that.
Yes, on live YouTube show. Of course they're going to act like animals on October 7th and like total barbarians because Israel made them into animals and barbarians. Israel made them into animals. I was like, okay, we need a little bit of a timeout, sir. First of all, that is incredibly racist. And then he got all worked up. Like, no, I'm not racist. The Israelis are the worst creatures and they're where. And I was like, whoa. Excuse me, sir. First of all, the decision to launch October 7th was a decision. It was a choice. It was not an inevitability. It didn't have to happen. All of these Western, experts in academia make it seem like Gaza was starving, that Gazans were like a North Korea style famine in 94, crawling on the floor looking for crumbs of food, when in fact, this was a decision by Sinwar and Dave, two psychopaths underground, who not only didn't consult the rest of Gaza, they didn't even consult the rest of Hamas and the rest of Iran and the axis of resistance, Iran and Hezbollah, who had nebulous ideas about this.
Does this guy have any criticism of Israel at all? They literally wiped out his family. He does, like he says, but it's usually kind of like passing comments. His focus is definitely on trying to get the pro-Palestinian side to stop being fucking mental about terrorism. But honestly, I don't have too much of an issue with that because someone like him is gonna probably, I don't know actually. Like when I hear Israeli politicians, like say like the left-leaning ones, I think their biggest value is attacking like the government, like Netanyahu and all that. I don't really care to hear about Olmert or Golan complaining about Palestinians, I think they do a much better job and a much more persuasive job at attacking their own leadership. Because the conflict is just so polarized that there's not really much point, is there? There's not much point in a Gazan trying to like finger wag at Israelis. Like they would just never get listened to. Same with Israelis and towards Palestinians. Oh, he's opened. Okay.
It's happening, but basically he went into like total operational security mode and decided to do this on his own. My point is that this was a very narrow, specific operation against Saudi and Israeli normalization. This was a military coup within Hamas. Hamas's popularity was down in the toilet in Gaza before October 7th. So this was an attempt to rejuvenate the armed resistance narrative and fraud, but, on behalf of which Hamas siphoned so many resources of the Palestinian people's resources. And again, I say this because my goal is like, I'm not self-hating, I'm not self-flagellating. Like, I love my people, I'm proud of the people of Gaza. I think the people
Where
of
is he?
Gaza,
Where's this guy?
many of
Right
them
here.
have incredible potential, incredible talent. Many people in Gaza, they ran successful businesses. There were beaches, there were hotels, there Gaza had its first shopping malls during the blockade, okay? And by the way, yes, of course, Gaza also had some of the most polluted water and issues with that were the result of
This
the
guy's fucking
blockade. But the
train
blockade,
wrecking.
people
Look at
understand
this
the
guy, my
blockade.
hero.
The blockade was not this static, stagnant regime. It was a system that evolved since 2006, and it went through multiple phases and stages. There were at times when it was
You're
as
referring to
harsh and
Varoufakis,
horrendous
really?
and inhumane
Okay.
as calculating the number of calories by the IDF that the people of Gaza needed to survive. Oh, like one time, at one point, John Kerry went into Gaza and he looked at the list of prohibited items, and it was like pasta and like Crayolas and stuff. And after that, after a reassessment, especially after the 2014 war, there was a fundamental reassessment of the blockade
It
regime.
was my understanding of it is that after 2014, it was relaxed, wasn't it? The blockade measures were loosened quite a lot compared to pre-2014. Am I correct? Like the maritime access that Gaza had was expanded. I don't think work permits came in. They came in under the was it Lapid government or yeah.
Where there was an effort by Kogat and by elements within the Israeli apparatus to try to let Gaza flourish from a business point of
Bennett,
view,
sorry.
to try to, and then later on they let the Qataris come in, and that's a whole other beast that we'll tackle in a little bit, with Netanyahu then using that as a way to keep the Palestinians divided and as political leverage. And that's where I think there needs to be accountability on the Israeli side for this 3D chess that backfired horribly. But the point is that I actually would argue up to October 7th, the blockade was at its arguably its lowest point, whereby there were 20,000 people that were working in Israel, and that number was about to go to 50,000. My mom, I was regularly talking to her. My mom, when I came to the United States, I came here when I was 15, and none of my immediate or extended family came with me. I came by myself, and I was never able to go back in 2006 when Hamas abducted an Israeli soldier. And so I always had this like physical.
I'm gonna read this Discord comment because it seems like it might be interesting.
Yo, be good.
Although you guys probably hate that PF Young guy, he did at least put me on the spot in terms of thinking like, exactly what do I want America to do with their leverage over Israel? Like in a more precise way. I think what I came up with yesterday was okay, because it's more aggressive than I think the American government ever has been, but you know, that's kind of needed. It needs to be creative. Let's see. LonerBox, this is from Ehud Shapira. I found myself very confused by your talk with P.F. Young. In particular, your take that if Israel stopped making new settlements, we wouldn't be any closer to a solution because Palestinians aren't giving up anything on their side. Kind of bewildering. I'm a big old Zionist, mind you. Of course, we'd be in a better state. I'm in agreement that pressure should be put on both sides, and it is important to make it clear that both sides need to do better. The PA has been bad about previous offers, about education, about the Martyrs and Prison Fund, about the way we've been waging their intel campaign against Israel, and more. It needs to be said that at least officially, for a good while now, the PA has been calling for a two-state solution while our government has been outright ruling it out as a possibility. It's right to cast doubt on the true willingness and the ability of the PA to reach an actual realistic deal, but our side is kind of worse on this really important point right now. While the PA is out there fighting against Palestinian terrorists, the Israeli government is building new settlements with impunity, protecting ones it itself sees as illegal, doing fuck all about worse about settler violence, etc. Love your journey, how open your eyes are about the complexity of this whole mess, and about how much of the responsibility is not just Israeli but also Palestinian hands. But honestly, while PF Young is for the most part a moron about IP, I think you might have overcorrected. That's probably true. I think the problem is it's a difficult position when I'm saying, like, in a just world, all the settlements would be dismantled and evacuated tomorrow, but like regardless of any concessions. But the problem is like how to use that and apply it to the context of the present day. You're right about the importance of maintaining leverage, of accurate cuts and sanctions, and of not acting like everything on the peace side is fine and dandy. While pulling out settlements, especially near the big near-border high-altitude ones, is a concession, stopping new ones is not. If this was threatened with massive cuts, I think you would see massive civilian action if the government decided to lose the aid and keep expanding, which would be an excellent development. Thanks for... okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah. So what you're thinking, you're saying that the American government should threaten to withhold all the aid in exchange for stopping all further settlement expansion, like all of it. And if Israel says no, then it's just, well, they've lost an ally. That's it. They've lost the big ally. Because I personally think you could get there. I think you could get there. But just not in that way. I think like piecemeal prohibitions in exchange for some concessions from the PA, I think that's actually more conceivable. Anyway. Okay. Why not leverage aid for Gaza? Because leveraging aid to Israel doesn't make them hungry. Leveraging aid to Israel for things that are... it's so easy to stop. It's so easy to not expand settlements. Like, it's so easy to not do that, you know? If we're even asking you to do anything, we're just asking you to stop doing something. Talk to a hood, okay. Hello.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi. So yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, especially the position he started with of the need to pull out all the settlements or we cut all aid is absolutely moronic. And also I agree with you that even about the only don't expand settlements, just saying, oh, either you stop tomorrow or we cut off all aid also isn't the best way of going about it. But I think it does need to be like the thing you said about specifically targeting things that Israel uses for occupation. In a sense, I think it's kind of worse because I think Israel shouldn't be pressured to cut back military presence. It should be very much pressured to stop the expansion of civilian presence. And in that sense, obviously they should come up with a system which isn't just binary and isn't tomorrow morning, but it should be very significant cuts over time. And obviously there will also be the whole situation of, okay, so Israel is just going to start kind of letting settlements do what they want, but not sanctioned officially. And that's going to be complicated. That's going to be difficult for the US to figure out how they manage the cuts in those situations. But I think that it should be a very significant economic threat. And I think that that would embolden a lot of Israelis, even Israelis who don't really give a shit about settlements one way or the other. And I'm talking about the kind of crazy mid-West Bank settlements, not the very established ones that are near the border that will be in any deal. So I think that a lot of Israelis would be out on the street saying these crazy motherfuckers are gonna get us in a very bad situation for a bunch of hills that we don't give a shit about.
Okay, so what do you think the American, like, if that demand was summed up into like an American sentence, what do you think it would be?
A sentence is tough to say. And it does need to be more complicated than what a sentence could contain. But I will try to answer your question and say basically that unless Israel stops the expansion of these settlements, stops making worse the Swiss cheese situation, Israel is going to see massive cuts to US aid economically, militarily, and so on. And it does also need to come with a very express statement by the Americans that they care a lot about Israeli security, but that this isn't helping Israeli security. It's bad for Israeli security. It's bad morally. It's bad geopolitically, and this has to stop. And by the way, I think that, for example, the U.S. shouldn't threaten to pull back its vetoes in the UN, because I think the vetoes in the UN are very important, because the UN is fucking idiotic and demands Israel to do things which are absolutely nonsensical. So just generally speaking, when kind of going to the Israeli public, it always needs to be made very clear that we care about your security. Your security is paramount, but this isn't security. And the stuff that isn't security has to stop, and we're going to strong arm you into stopping it.
I think that makes sense. I think you could even do it because, like, I've heard Israeli right-wingers come up with this position on Palestinians, and I think it's actually, like, I think if the Americans did it to Israel, it would make more sense. So I've heard Israeli right-wingers say that they should just annex like a square meter of land for every hour that Hamas doesn't surrender, right, in the West Bank, and they would just like annex a bunch of places that are already like on the green line and are never going back anyway. But then it would like up the pressure and make Palestinians, which is dumb for a million reasons. Because
and it's a take that precedes the war. It's a take that people say generally about our kind of vengeance or our response to any terrorist attack should be to take away land, because the only thing they actually care about is land. It's very stupid, because all it does is embolden Hamas, because it shows the Palestinians that we're just taking more and more of their land.
Yeah, and it's annoying because these people actually are the more likely ones to know that land was not the sticking points in the peace process. Like, it wasn't. So why would they say that, like, we're going to take land because that's the big pressure point? Like, it clearly isn't. By your narrative, you'd say it was over like right of return of the Temple Mount. But
but people really convince themselves of it. By the way.
But they try to hold two opinions at once. They're contradictory.
The Israeli right wing is completely schizophrenic. It also believes at the same time that all of the Arabs just want to push us all into the sea, but at the same time they're somehow going to be happy just being our subjects if we give them an economic situation. It's schizophrenic.
Okay, so you think if the American government, like right now, was able to say something like, we are going to start, like, if you don't stop an expansion of settlements, just an expansion of any new ones, then we're going to like reconsider foreign aid, and if it carries on, like we're just going to like start cutting the aid budget, like in this place or that, for as long as it takes you to stop doing this. Like, is that kind of like a reason?
I think
like a timeline kind of thing.
I think it would embolden the Israeli sane parts of the political spectrum to an immense degree.
Yeah,
because it also it goes to show that these things that are happening are insane. Like, I recently found out that my hometown basically has expanded over the Green Line. No one asked anyone. No one gives a shit, and everyone's acting like it's normal that we just put civilians in a territory which our own country doesn't consider to be sovereign part of our country.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow the Israeli public needs to understand that this is insane. And this is in no way the worst of it, right? Because it's close to the border. We can trade some land for it somewhere, but also, like, where are we going to trade all this land? Because we've purposely, settled all of the areas that surround the West Bank and Gaza. But anyway, and also just to make it clear, I'm talking in particular about new settlements and about places that are like not close to the border, etc. Because when I say expanding settlements, people could also take that to mean like expanding Gush Etzion, which again is not ideal. I would like there to be no new units in Gush Etzion, etc. But it's a different kind of magnitude of problematic. Like the real big issue should be about new settlements being approved, new settlements being built.
Okay. And do you think this? So one quick question, then maybe a longer one. Do you think this should be done with no attachment to any Palestinian concessions on the other end, if it's just to stop the expansion?
My take has been actually kind of a hope I had back in 2016 when Trump first came to power, which was like, what the fuck is happening in America? I was kind of hoping that he's gonna kind of flip on a dime and sit with Putin and Xi and basically tell both the Israelis and Palestinians, okay, stop fucking around.
Yeah.
We're now making you do the shit you need to do. So I do say, and I think I wrote this in my TED talk that I sent you, that I do think that it does need to also come at the same time with statements saying the Palestinians have also been fucking up. The Palestinians also need to change their ways. I think that's crucial, both for the Israelis to hear and the Palestinians to hear. But the cuts made to either side, or the repercussions to either side, shouldn't depend on what the other side does. They should depend on what the same side does, on what the side that faces the repercussions does, is what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, right.
Now, this is off the top of my head, right? And if a bunch of really smart and experienced people in Washington sit and think about it better than me, they can come up with better shit. But I think that's the direction.
Yeah. I think I agree with that.
And what was the longer question?
If America forces unilateral concessions from Israel, what stops Hamas from claiming victory for it? Because they're the only reason that everyone cares about this issue right now.
So that's one of the toughest questions, for sure. It's something I've been thinking about, obviously, since October 7th, from the first moment. Well, not for the first moments, because we were, in shock and horror about so many things. But and it's also something, obviously, you think about in earlier times. And I think basically that if the world, or if the US is principled about saying what goes, what doesn't go, what has repercussions, what has rewards, then it becomes very clear that, okay, I mean, it's tragic and it's awful, but maybe this horrid thing that Hamas did actually did make something happen in the end. And it sucks to say this, it's horrible to say this, but I think that the actual repercussions of it might not be as disastrous as people in Israel kind of tend to say, because I totally agree with you, by the way, about the Hezbollah point that you made about the return from the security strip in Lebanon. That was an absolute disaster in the way that it was done. It was an absolute disaster that this was done during the talks with Arafat, that it was done specifically at a time when Arafat was actually, for kind of the first time, holding back terrorist attacks. And then Barak totally snubbed Arafat while he was doing this, and gave concessions to the worst terrorists. I think that was an absolute disaster.
Used it in all of his speeches to egg on the Palestinians to carry on.
Absolutely,
intifada.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's a big
mind rotted by it.
I hate Barak. I can give like a 1 hour long talk about why Barak is the second worst prime minister after Netanyahu.
Wow.
Less out of gross incompetence. But I think at the end of the day, if the US makes it really clear that Hamas, is terrible for Palestinians for a million different reasons, the fact that this absolute disaster got us here, if someone thinks that makes it worth supporting Hamas over, then that's up to them. But I think that it's not. It's possible to not make this be a strategic dead end that just makes everyone think, oh yeah, so we should do more October 7th. I think it's possible to make the policy such that this is not the conclusion that most people reach.
I mean, I guess if you're fighting Hamas anyway, it's like, it's what is it, the quote, like you can just pursue peace as if there's no terrorism and fight terrorism as if there's no peace.
Good old Ben Gurion, yeah.
Was that Ben Gurion or was that Rabin? I thought Ben Gurion was
I mean, the original is Ben Gurion talking about the British and the Nazis.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it. You have a good one, okay?
And any more thoughts, I'm here.
Yeah, of course. All right. Thank you.
Yalla, bye.
Yalla, bye. Wow.
Connection to the land through my dad ran an UNRWA, the UN refugee clinic agency rather, that ended up becoming controversial during this war.
I apologize to PF Young right now. I don't really know if that is too different from what I already believe, but maybe I will, just to give him something. I don't know why he's getting roasted so hard in the comments. I hope that's not you guys. I mean, I guess you're allowed to do it if it's like independent, but I just don't know. I don't feel like I've cultivated the kind of community that jumps into people's comment sections and fucking soys. I don't really know if that's you guys. Is it? But maybe. I don't know what you guys are like, to be honest. I don't really know what an LGG brigade is like. Fuck. Oh.
Their clinic in Jabalia in northern Gaza. My brother ran their beach clinic. My oldest brother is in Gaza right now. He is the field director for one of the biggest medical NGOs
I think
there.
it's DGG Hate Watchers and PF Young's. Oh no. He gives you Dave Smith vibes. Well, 100%. I think he probably got some of quite a good bit of his opinions from Dave Smith. Yeah.
Health warning.
Whoa, my God, I'm stunned. No. Let's not die. Let's not die. Haha. No problem. Just look at the screen, loner cuck. Fucking hell, that was a strong machine. Monka. I was fine. Never even close. I was like several hits away from dying. Just a long stun. Shit.
Sorry, the dog. we have a room full of dogs that just got spooked by something. Go on. Sorry. Apologies.
No worries. My point is, October, like within the imbalance, this is what many commentators don't get.
How much to stop playing WoW for a month? $1,000, Lexar. Ah!
Within the imbalance of power dynamics, there's asymmetry of power between Palestinians and Israelis, with one side, Israelis clearly having overwhelming advantage. There is still, nevertheless, space within said imbalance for Palestinian agency and accountability and responsibility to optimize for better decision making, to optimize for better circumstances, so that you don't hand our people on a silver platter to the most far-right government in Israel's history, committing the worst single-day attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust, on a government that has Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, and Netanyahu. And so that's where I speak with passion, and that to me is what's missing from the discourse. It's easy to go on endlessly attacking Israel to the moon and back. And you know what? If that suits you, that's for some people, that's their prerogative, though I feel like that's become kind of a trendy thing to do. But if you actually genuinely want to help the Palestinian people, if you want to learn from our...
If each chatter donates $1, we have 1K. Listen, I appreciate your optimism, okay? But you also have to remember that me doing gaming streams makes me a shit ton more money because it can, because I can hyper focus and stream for like 12 hours and just react to shit. It's a lot less taxing. So you have to factor that into your calculations. Especially since I'm suffering extreme hardship for being smart and cute. You know? And that's why, regardless of how you feel about this video game, you should be morally obligated to support the stream in many various ways, such as becoming a member, getting a green little name and cute emotes, or giving a super chat, $10 or more for TTS to your message. Maybe even PayPal if you want a discreet donation that doesn't get read out. Oh no, these fucking fireballs, bro.
Our past mistakes.
Lexar,
if you want our people to learn from the repeated failures of 77 years since 1948, then it's time to look inward. And again, that's not, blaming the victim. I actually think that's the first step to empowering the Palestinian people, instead of all of these academics rushing to say, oh, y'all have no agency, no accountability, y'all are angels, whatever you do, you can't be blamed because it's all...
This is exactly where your rogue died. Skill issue, skill issue, skill issue, skill issue. I need that plant, so I need to go through 2 more tidal fucks to get it.
You know, there's seems to be a growing...
Come here.
Movement of people protesting Hamas at seemingly a risk, a great risk to their own personal safety. I know, I read some of the protesters were executed and left like at his parents' house or something like that outside. But there seems to be a growing protest, and simultaneously there seems to be people like Hassan Piker and people like him who are simultaneously
uninterested,
kind of discrediting them or trying to change their motives. They like if he'll say like it's not that serious, or they're there to protest Israel primarily. They don't actually hate Hamas, or they're there because of whatever. He thinks it's not a big deal. There's not a lot of people there. They're actually there to protest Israel primarily, and this is just propaganda. Again, it's like these leftist liberals, or I mean these Western leftists, I feel like they're clearly not helping.
Okay.
And I don't understand. I just don't understand, you know? And like the way that they're now defending this shooter in DC, or not maybe defending, but excusing. A lot of people are defending. A lot of people are excusing.
A lot of people are outright defending him.
Yeah. And so it's like, this is, and then I see Netanyahu giving these insane fucking speeches, or other government officials of Israel. And I'm like, I hate these people. And now these people are saying like the most heinous, insane shit that I never want to hear them saying. And it's like, it's making everything worse. It's giving these people a platform in Israel who are the worst. And it's giving just more justification for these so-called activists online who are cheering on more violence. It's just, I don't understand the point, and it just doesn't seem complicated to me. As they, I don't know.
Yo, Mr. Bonabox.
I'm black.
Thanks for something to enjoy while working. Also, have you held yourself accountable lately?
I'm very.
Saluting face emoji, shushing face emoji, thoughtful face emoji.
Thanks for $10. Yeah, I've been very accountable lately. I said the N-word 3 times this morning and then felt really bad about it. So that's accountability, right?
Hold on it.
Yeah. So I wanna say something just for the record. Like, I don't know Mr. Piker. I know of him through you explicitly. I am disappointed recently by the fact that he hosted a gentleman by the name of the Bad Empanada.
Oh, you know about him?
The Bad Empanada has incited so heavily against me. Some of the worst death threats that I have received against my life came from people directly affiliated.
Do you know how often I hear that?
Yeah.
And he did a whole hit piece on me, and for some reason he just dedicated so much of his energy to me, and I was like, dude, just let it go, let it be. There was a hit piece on me by basically a leftist rag that's like a Russian, Iranian, North Korean propaganda outlet that claimed Israel is paying me $30 million to promote.
Based. And
of course, you know, Mr. Empanada.
He got 30 million. Why is this guy more valuable than me? What the fuck? Oy vey. Jews! In chat. My handlers. I need a better agent. I need a better Goldstein. Okay. What?
Just and he called me the final boss of respectability politics. And you know, again, and I'm speaking about this not in a personalized sense. I've had way worse guys than Mr. Empanada come out. I've had Al-Qaeda guys straight up, and it's all here threatened to, which is weird because I'm single, I don't have kids, threatened to behead, to rape my children, behead my wife, and then rape me and behead me.
Shit.
And these are like people like Al-Qaeda, like they're like big Al-Qaeda guys coming after me to the point where I've had to acquire the means to defend myself.
Wow.
So this is not a pity party. I'm simply saying that, you know, having Mr. Hassan and the Bad Empanada, two non-Palestinians, sitting up there pontificating about, you know, what is good for the Palestinians and genocide this and genocide that and resistance, like the how pompous can one get is that. But Mr. Piker, if he has any interest in actually engaging in this and actually like engaging in a goodwill conversation,
No
I would
way.
love that. I would love to see him talk to you. I don't think he will because it's too disruptive. But it's too disruptive to his message.
No, we need more white people. We need more white
yeah.
activists on.
I have personally been, I mean, I've come this close to disavowing the entirety. And this is something that I, as a radical pragmatist, you know, because I launched Realign for Palestine, which is about radical pragmatism, a rejection of violence, multiple truths, different layers of engagement, dialogue, conversations, not as kumbaya, but actually as a pragmatic, meaningful way of establishing common ground.
If you gift subs, does Loner get less? No. I get whatever the sub is worth. 70% of whatever, anything on YouTube. Dwayne, thanks for $5. Emoji, emoji, emoji. Meme, thanks for the $4.99. 15 more super chats in 1 hour, inshallah. Yes. I think it's possible. 15 in 1 hour. 15 supers in 1 hour. I think it's time. Come on. Where is this lack of commitment? Pieces of shit. There's kind of been like the recent Hassan hate watch embargo has been going okay. It's not really an embargo, it's more just like a lessening. We still got 1,200 viewers. That's cool. Pretty cute.
And I've come this, but despite the aforementioned, I've come this close to disavowing the entirety of the pro-Palestine.
I'll send more super chats, just don't respond grumpily to a fan. I mean, okay, look, you can't pay me to change my ways, okay?
Humanitarian Deliveroo Fund.
Thank you for the $10, Dwayne. Goddamn. You guys are so devoted. So cute. So gay. Okay.
Movement as basically being a complete fraud. And I know people in it who are following me, who are trying their best, and I know there are good people in the movement. This is just the only thing that's out there, and I'm trying really hard to be compassionate. And what really, like the two things that have just made it so exceptionally difficult, never mind the attacks on me, calling me a Zionist, the constant threats. They go and harass me on college campuses when I speak and interrupt me and scream free Palestine at me. Imagine free Palestine at a Palestinian from Gaza
Curtis,
who literally runs a program called Realign for Palestine, who has family that was killed in Gaza, who is literally deaf in his left ear because of a bombing by the IDF. Like imagine just the stupidity of yelling
the
back.
arrogance.
Philippines, thanks for the tier 1 sub.
Just-
I mean,
the gifted sub, I mean, shit.
you know, so sorry, I'm
No, I
building up.
trust me, I
It's
totally
not
get
coming
it.
up. It's not. What happened since the anti-Hamas? What happened with the pro-Palestine movement since the anti-Hamas protests in Gaza has exposed it all, has laid it bare for everybody to see. All the journalists, all the social media influencers, all the outlets, the independent outlets out there. All this was disruptive to the narrative. This turned things upside down. Nobody touched it. A mere handful of people wanted to touch it. I was supporting these folks in Gaza. I was helping them out. I was sending some of them money. I was giving them messaging advice. They asked me, what do we do? They asked me, mobilize support. You're in Washington. Go talk to policymakers. I went to Capitol Hill. I talked to folks. I was trying desperately to get the mainstream media attention. These guys are not only the true freedom fighters, but they also actually proved wrong the insane Hasbara pro-Israel people that said everybody in Gaza is a terrorist. Everybody in Gaza loves Hamas.
Level 30,
everybody
guys.
in Gaza. By the way, these people have
Not
always
quite
been
halfway,
there.
but
They just,
it's okay.
as Hamas has been weakened and as Hamas has become just that much more fascistic, they've decided to come forth. And so to see the ladder of escalation, it started with total radio silence about the anti-Hamas protesters. And it was so funny to see the indirect union. Ethan, listen to this very carefully, my brother. The indirect union between the crazy pro-Palestine people and...
I gotta talk like this guy more often. What the fuck? Not in terms of like messaging. I can do my own messaging. But I feel like this guy has much more like public speaker vibes, you know? He's getting them engaged and shit. I'm just a yapper. I guess like the fucking compelling speeches or whatever isn't really my thing. I'm more of a snappy, feisty debate bro, so whatever. I feel like if I spoke like this, it would be so unnatural with the hand gestures and the like, the kind of like constant semi-smile face. Oh yeah, there's that. Oh no. I'm not built for that. Your soliloquy needs work. Damn, my soliloquy. What just happened there? Huh? Okay, we're fine. We're not cringe. I guess he's loud because he got deafened by the bombing. I mean, his voice is like perfect for what he's trying to, for the style of speaking that he's doing. Ugh.
The insane pro, and I'm putting pro-Palestine in quotes and pro-Israel in quotes, union between the pro-Palestine crazies and the pro-Israel crazies. The pro-Palestine crazies who love Hamas, who are anti-Semitic, who believe in the armed resistance fraud, and the pro-Israel.
Noah Samson coverage of IP, and while I completely disagree with him, he never struck me as maliciously dishonest. What causes these impassable rifts? Is it disagreements on facts, or what solution actually works?
Thanks for $20. It's difficult because most people are low information, and most people, frankly, even the ones who are aesthetically invested in the conflict are probably not even going to care that much to ever go that deep into it. So it's like, how do you compete? There's like a few things that are going wrong. So it's like, how do you compete with someone whose opinions are backed by all the quote unquote reputable human rights organizations, right? It doesn't really matter if you can demonstrate how many of them have been wrong in the past and how they've been wrong even during this war, right? Like you can demonstrate it fairly easily for a lot of these cases, but how, like, because the only people making that case either professionally are like pro-Israel Lion of Zion fucking lawyers, and why would anyone listen to them? Or it's people like me, like dipshits on the internet, right? Gamers and shit. So the problem is that I don't really blame the average person for seeing an amnesty headline and being like, okay, yeah, that seems true, and that's what the HRW and Francesca Albanese and all these people are saying. So why would I not disagree with that? Like they're supposed to be the impartial bodies, right? Oh, but this YouTuber who calls himself the LonerBox disagrees. Well, why would I listen to that guy over these? So yeah, there's like a credibility fucking crisis, I guess, with the fact that these human rights organizations basically get to write and operate based on preconceived conclusions, and no matter how sluggish and full of holes their work is, bro, like what is there to credibly contend with that? Like I can't do it, not to most people. The second issue is that we are in countries right now that haven't been in war for a long time, not least of all in a war where the enemy is fighting in the way that Hamas does, in such a like cynical but also kind of like ingenious way. People don't appreciate how fucking militarily and like politically sophisticated Hamas is. The fact that their messaging is so good at appealing to Western sensibilities, the fact that their military strategy is also the perfect optical strategy, because it basically means that Israel can fight a military without it looking like they're targeting anything military. Because if Hamas are underground, right? Well, we don't have cameras inside the tunnels. All you see is bombs going off in cities, right? Like, and civilians die, because you don't see what's underneath the buildings, right? Like, you don't see any of that. You don't see the IEDs inside the buildings, and that's why they blew up this one or that one, because otherwise it was too much of a risk. You don't see any of that. You're getting bombed for no reason, right? And they're very good at keeping their militants' deaths disguised and everything like that. So it's like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? Like, the optical reality to most people, like, you can't really convince most people who don't really know or care that much about researching war, or especially urban war, or especially modern urban war, and especially a very unique modern urban war. Sorry, you can't explain all those nuances to people who just see F-35s bombing mosques. Like, and Hamas, I think it's very hard to believe Hamas doesn't do that intentionally. Like, that the aesthetic of it being like a mass, the appearance of it being just a random carpet bombing mass slaughter, and the civilian deaths, and the fact that militant deaths are not disclosed, I think it's very hard to believe that that's not all intentional. Like, I find it hard to believe that the way that they built the battlefield, the way that they booby-trap the houses, the way that they control the movements of civilians wherever they can, the way that they control the movements of aid, like, I think it's very hard to believe that they're not doing that intentionally, because they know that the deaths and the destruction will help their cause. They can't defeat Israel militarily. They can defeat it in a war of political attrition. They can just keep on constantly hammering at the reputation of Israel by getting their own people killed. I think again, I don't know if they do that intentionally, or if they're just hiding in tunnels because they want to, like, because they just want to last long. But I think that's just not giving them any. To me, that's not really giving them credit. Like, to me, that's underestimating them. I don't know. I just think it's very hard to believe that they don't do that on purpose. Do you think Israel's destroying its own reputation? Yeah, the right-wing government absolutely is, yeah. The right-wingers are completely fucking cooked. Like, Bibi does it. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir obviously do it. Like, most of the ministers do it, yeah. Yeah, they play into it, yeah, of course. And Hamas doesn't force them to do that. They could have better leaders. But even with better leaders, the problem is I don't think they would... I think it would still, internationally, would still be in Hamas's favor. I think even the best, most ethical Israeli left-wing leader, I don't think they would be able to get around that strategy that Hamas is engaging in. That's just my opinion. Doesn't mean they shouldn't try. They should do better. They should do much better.
People who believe that everybody in Gaza is Hamas, everybody's a terrorist, and so both parties had an interest in diminishing, overlooking, undermining, or ignoring the anti-Hamas protesters in Gaza. And so it is the height of irony, the mother of all ironies, that is the only common ground they have managed to establish throughout the entirety of this war, is they were united against the innocent civilian people of Gaza who risked their lives. Some of them are my very sick, very, very sick. But then focusing back on the pro-Palestine movement, then they took it a step further recently. And then we saw an actual overt attack against the actual true freedom fighters of Gaza, not the rapists and the murderers and the beheaders and the people who burn people alive and the attackers and the child kidnappers and the murderers and the evil Hamas guys. No. Those are not freedom fighters. Those are a bunch of guys with salaries. Those guys all have salaries. Being a Hamas terrorist is an actual salary, okay? So, no, the real freedom fighters who were literally protesting a terrorist ISIS-like fascistic organization while Israeli bombs were falling all around them, who were not getting paid for any of this, who were entirely organic, who, by the way, I've always believed, I've never once fomented those sentiments. They had to organically come from Gaza. And they've, like I said, they've always been there. Some of the pro-Israel people were like, well, these people are only protesting now because of the consequences of the war.
Fucking
total
cringe,
BS,
dude.
total hogwash. These people, there's always...
That was some of you guys as well. And actually, you know what? You should be fucking ashamed of yourselves. Why would you sit there and think like, oh, really, now? You think that people in Gaza have never in the past thought, you know what? It's kind of fucking annoying when Hamas fires mortars from next door to our house. Like, that's a pain in the ass. Like, can they not do that, please? Like, yeah, obviously, it took Hamas being severely weakened for them to actually have the space to make themselves seen. Alright. McNulty's Sober Companion. Thanks for the $5. When Empanada sends us all to camps, money won't matter anyway. Everything will be bartered, so here, take my money. Hey, let's go! Profiting off anti-Semitism. Yeah! Bogsy, thanks for the $1.99. Trying hard to be compassionate. Sounds like Box. Huh.
It's been... societal, political, ideological, and religious opposition to Hamas in Gaza. It's just that now the group's behavior has just pushed people to the breaking point. So that's where
how do we support people in Gaza who are, as you say, the real freedom fighters?
Well, we actually amplify the heck out of their actions and activities. We expose those who are opposing them, and literally, Ethan, just the reason why I was emphasizing the ironic unity, like shame the pro-Palestine people by telling them that you are in an indirect, because a lot...
I'd be so surprised if that bit didn't get clipped by the snarkers. Did it?
A lot of the pro-Israel people that follow me because they love my anti-Hamas message, but they really are only interested in that. They're like, no, we don't believe them. These people are not insincere. This is Takia. They only want to stop the bombing. They don't love the Jews. They don't. And I'm like, you guys are so stupid.
Retarded?
There's a reason why a bunch of misbehaving,
No information briefs makes sense for the average person. But people like Noah or Hassan not only don't view themselves as low info, they view themselves as high info. What explains their views?
Well, because they think they're drawing from academic and scholarly consensus. And unfortunately, in some cases they are. The problem is that a lot of these quote-unquote scholars are kind of fucking hacks. I don't know. And also because I think like half of the scholarship is just completely ignored. Like it doesn't really get the same coverage. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you convince someone that fucking Joe Schmo, who actually just does some reading and is willing to look at the gap, look between the lines, is more reliable than like an amnesty report. I don't know how you do that. Isn't half of academia just hackery? Well, the funny thing is that lefties would absolutely say that. They would say that about economics. They'd say it's just voodoo, right? But for some reason, it's like you can't be anti-intellectual against human rights reports and fucking, like whatever, Middle East studies, people who do these courses, right? Time for you to get a doctorate. Wouldn't matter.
College students on undergrads have been able to beat Hasbara and the pro-Israel advocacy movement because there is just such a glob of messaging. When it's not a dynamic messaging, it doesn't humanize the Palestinian people. It doesn't acknowledge that the Palestinian people are diverse and not monolithic. Again, this is actually another point of convergence between the crazy pro-Israel and crazy pro-Palestine people, is that there is an unwillingness to acknowledge that Gaza society, Palestinians in Gaza, they're not monolithic in how they see Hamas. And in fact, there's, as you opened so brilliantly at the beginning, I love.
Oh, Hassan was molding about this guy saying Gazans at one point, even though he's been saying Gazans and Palestinians like interchangeably the entire fucking time. Oh man, these people are such fucking liars. They're such liars. I do recall. I find it on Reddit.
Just doesn't want cousins.
Oh my god.
Crazy how Hassan like just doesn't want us to help cousins.
Oh my god. Oh, they're so gross, dude. They're such disgusting genocidal propagandists. Oh my god. Oh, it's crazy how Hassan doesn't want us to help the Palestinians. Wait, did she even say Palestinians? Hold on, maybe she did.
It's really crazy how Hassan like just doesn't want us to help Gazans.
Oh, she didn't even say Palestinians. She said Gazans. Yeah. Here, another great way to figure out Ahmed Alkhatib being a bad faith actor is that he calls himself a Gazan American. He doesn't even call himself a Palestinian American. That designation does matter.
He's been saying Palestinian throughout the entire. It's such a meaningless. It's the most meaningless fucking thing. Oh god.
Disgusting. I read showed that there was a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that Gazans did not have access to clean water. Gazans disgusting. All fucking infrastructure that Gazans and Palestinians as a whole have. Disgusting. Is to die. And certainly the Gazan civilians to die as well. Disgusting.
Okay. Fucking retard. Alright. Yeah.
How you open it. There's totally a disconnect. And that's my raison d'etre. That's why I'm out there. That's why.
Filmot.com will be the fucking death of streamers. Because someone clearly went into Filmot on Hassan's channel and just put in Gazans and then just feasted. Man, the world used to be so much more difficult.
I deal with the threats, and I deal with the empanadas, and I deal with the Dalai Lamas, and I deal with the fools, and I deal with the attacks and whatever, because the people of Gaza are what sustains me. The people of Gaza are what give me hope. The people of Gaza are the actual folks who genuinely and sincerely make it worthwhile for me. And actually, I wanted to show you, I wanted to send you this tweet, and I hope you're able to.
Yeah, we can. Just send it to
put it.
Send it in the chat, and we can open it.
So I'm gonna send you just two particular two. This one here, I'm gonna send it in the chat. This one is from a lady who is in Gaza, and then this one. So let's start with Noor, and you can do, if you can, I don't know if you can show it on the show, but you can. It's in the first one is in Arabic, and you can just do the Google Translate.
I'm pulling this up here, and you should probably be able to see it.
Pose.
So it's in Arabic. You guys can see by someone named Noor, and I'm going to translate it.
There you go.
Unable to fetch. Oh. Why is it doing that? Well, I can just put it into Google.
Is Noor like the girl's name? Does it just mean light? Does it just mean light? Like Sabah al-Noor. No? Yes? Thank you. Oh, cute.
Translate to.
Yes, put it
Rob
in
Noor.
Google Translate.
Yeah, let me do that.
And yeah, that's weird because on Twitter itself, for me, it translated.
Wait, is the Hebrew name Nurit? Nurit, is that Nurit? Does that mean light as well? Because I think Nu or NU or NUIT or something. Is it Nu or NUIT? That also means like light or the sun, doesn't it? Wait, is there a fucking hidden mob there? Look at him, he's in disguise. I think it's like an Egyptian god of light or sun or something. Nur, it's a type of flower. Okay. I see. Means buttercup. Oh, buttercup. Like the Powerpuff Girls. Nice.
Oh, here, I got, yeah, okay. Thank you. So here's a translation. Would you like me to read it?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
Because, hang on. Nair is candle. Because it's making me think of... Is it... Yeah, the goddess of the sky. It's called Nut. Nut. Ancient Egyptian. The night and the stars. Nut. I think Nut, the ancient Egyptian goddess, is she not literally like a fucking naked woman, like arching over the sky, like a giant woman who arches over the sky, and she's like the stars? Yeah, yeah. Egyptian has nothing to do with it. Okay, it's just a total coincidence then. Is she hot? Bro, she's the fucking night sky. Would you not? Holy mummy. Shut up.
Yes, please.
Shut
so
up.
She says, I don't know if you received this information or not. We in Gaza hate anything called resistance and any resistance fighter. After this war, we guarantee you that there will be no form of resistance, even resistance songs. We will
Stop
ban them.
gooning, chat.
The peace that will be in Gaza will shock you, and we will produce generations that hate the marksmen and will step on the graves of Sinwar and the Daif. Wow.
Daif.
Wow.
Daif. So that is a sentiment that is so ubiquitous, that is so widespread. But since we're in the show, let's show the other tweet, please. So Issa Amru is a super famous anti-occupation, anti-settlement guy in the West Bank. And at a time when all of these pro-Palestine people in the West are celebrating the murder, saying, kill them all, you know, the Yaron and everybody who's related to Israel, read what this guy who's literally daily being attacked by soldiers and by settlers. Read what he said.
He said, the murder of any human being should not be justified nor celebrated by anyone.
And this guy is literally, if you go to his profile, just really quickly, you can do it on your own leisure, you can do it now or whatever. It is full of, he's an internationally recognized activist. And every day he gets terrorized by settlers who want to take over his house. And every day he gets attacked by them. The hilltop youth and the little ones and the big ones, and they're protected by the soldiers.
Get him.
And a few times the soldiers will come and push them away. Sometimes they'll beat him up. The soldiers will beat them up. The settlers. This guy has suffered so horrendously. And yet somehow, some way, he's able to be in the fulcrum of the military occupation of the Palestine and the dehumanization.
Do you think it's bad to have low info opinions? We're basically required to, since we can't have high knowledge in most things. Or is it the level of conviction you attach to those low info opinions?
I have no idea. The problem is that there's just like a massive credibility crisis where it should be theoretically okay to have low info opinions, because usually in a reasonable world, if you wanted to learn about a thing, there would be credible sources, and you can go and look, and they can give you a summary, right? This has always been the case. Back in the day, people used to use fucking encyclopedias or Britannica, or like, people used to get like Spark Notes and things like that. But the problem is that there are so many topics where like trusted sources become Twitter feeds, or like or academics who are just basically using the veil of academia to do propaganda, or news broadcasters that are funded by states that are invested in conflicts and are obviously doing propaganda. It's like, yeah, you just get... So it's difficult. I don't really know the right answer to it. But thanks for the $10. All you do is just find a streamer who you think is smart and trustworthy enough and just watch them, okay? And let them play video games and fund their Deliveroo, which I didn't order last night, by the way. I was being well behaved. Fund their fucking takeaways. That's probably my best advice if you want to be a well-informed citizen.
And
if any of your friends are being cringe, make them debate me, okay? I'll take them all. I'll take them all down.
I think the complete awful reality that some Palestinians in the West Bank face, and to say, guys, like, geez, like, what is wrong with you? Like, all of these, like, Western-based people saying, like, get them, kill those Zionist, representatives of the state, whatever. So that's...
Yeah, there's a video pinned on his profile. Today, February 13th, I was detained and beaten violently by an Israeli soldier in Hebron. I was showing the famous American writer Lawrence Wright the Israeli occupation and apartheid in my hometown. This video is very disturbing. I don't know if you've seen it. But,
and that's literally all of his like wall.
So this guy manages still to be a true peace activist despite facing violence on a daily basis.
But also to like, when did we lose the ability to say random acts of violence are not okay? Random killings are not okay.
They need asterisks. Everything needs an asterisk, right?
Unless they're Zionists, and unless they work for the Zionist regime, and unless they're, but that's what I'm saying is like, this is such a scary because I genuinely like. Because I'm like,
it is actually quite scary that it's like twice in 1 week in America you've had people literally just attacking, like trying to fucking murder people who they think are pro-genocide just on the grounds that they're like loosely connected to Zionism. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking mad, dude. And there are people like sharing addresses and shit and actually trying to get action taken and making threats, and it's happening every day. Like this entire fucking hate industry. It's fucking disgusting, man. Can't believe a dude just threw a Molotov cocktail at a bunch of fucking septuagenarians. Why? Fuck. So we're marching with the hostages. Wait. You said that Holocaust survivor was 88, but someone said she was a daughter of the Holocaust survivor. The lady would have been a Holocaust survivor, right? Because if she's 88, she would have been born before the war. She'd have been born, was she 88? To be sure? Because she would have been born in 1937 then. She'd have been born, 37? Maybe she was born in the US. So how are her parents Holocaust survivors? Maybe she got out of Europe before the war, or before it started. Not to be that guy, okay? But are Jews who fled Europe in like 1937 called Holocaust survivors? Because I don't think they are, unless they were in Germany, I guess, like under the Nuremberg laws. Maybe they would call themselves Holocaust survivors. Let me see. Holocaust survivor, Colorado. Your folks got out in 39 and we don't say that. Got out of where? God, how many fucking Holocaust descendants do we have in this chat? What the fuck? I thought Vadim told me that they were all like pro-Hamas. What? Let's see. Yeah, they say including a Holocaust survivor, but no details.
Imagine a situation
Holocaust
where
avoiders.
this becomes the actual norm.
Oh god. Whoa! I gotta take this one on? The fuck? I didn't see that coming. I don't even have poisons. Shit. That's a bit much. Huh. Let's do a little gouge and run. Let's go over the bridge. Let's bridge them up. No, wait, they might... Duh! Huh. Yes! Avoided him. Fuck that guy. Okay, I can take him. It's fine. Oh, poison. It's gonna be difficult to dodge now. Don't have potions. Don't have potions. Don't have potions. We're fucked. We're fucked. We are truly fucked. Huh. We can vanish if we need to. This could be rough. What do I have? Do I have anything? I don't have cannibalized because there's no fucking bodies here. I can gouge kite, and if I get hurt, then I'll just fucking vanish. Oh, he's enraged. Should we vanish? 400 health. I think a crit would be less than 400. Oh!
Health warning.
Yep, vanished. Fuck that. Oh
Health
well.
warning.
No potions. Cringe. Big cringe. What do I do? Do you even get help?
Where political violence in the United States or in Europe or in the Western world, and this is why it is difficult for me and to like Realign for Palestine and my website, my organization, to draw out the Palestinian pragmatists and moderates. A lot of them, they have families. A lot of them have businesses. Some of them started writing things and then they start getting threats on like social media and they're like, oh, Ahmed, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Like I have a wife, I have the, like, and again, like not everybody can acquire the means and the necessary tools to protect themselves, which I'm very, very well adept at using, and I'm not going to be afraid, and I'm not going to, you know, curl up in a corner and be like, oh, mommy, I'm afraid. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm right here. I put my name, I put my face, I'm out there. You know, I take precautions. I'm not cocky. But, like, like, what happened to these embassy staff is the same kind of political violence that the Hamasniks and the terrorists and the Muslim Brotherhood people, they want to normalize against people like myself for challenging Hamas's narratives. And the people who send you, you know, skulls, human skulls, and that kind of garbage. Like this is the slippery slope that we're headed down. And this is like it takes someone from the West Bank facing horror to say, hey guys, like, can we please, you know, stop and not normalize this?
Yeah, I would love to see someone like Hassan talk to someone like that, but I just don't think that, you know, again, it's not what's going to drive Twitch primes to him.
Well, so that's my question to you then is, I mean, what do you think? Like I'm curious what you because I don't consider myself or call myself an influencer. I'm a writer, analyst, commentator.
A serious duder.
I'm an advocate. I'm not, you know, there's like there's activism, there's advocacy, and then there's policy. And advocacy is somewhere in between policy and activism, where you have to interface with both communities. But like, do you think over the years, I mean, like, why is it that a streaming but for the record, I'm not just speaking about your former colleague. I'm speaking generally. Why is it that we're in a place right now where a bunch of online streamers and podcasters and whatever, with no real understanding or link to the land or to the issue, are going to develop opinions that we're supposed to care about and are going to tell everybody this is what time it is, and then are going to start attacking people like you for retweeting me and saying you're promoting genocide for retweeting Gaza. Like, how did we get here?
I think there's...
And the two of us lived in Israel, and they still dare to tell Ethan, for example, that he doesn't know what he's talking about, even though he lived there for 5 years.
Talking about my empirical...
I'm from there. And
I think...
being from a country doesn't guarantee you'll know shit about it, but okay.
Illa, by the way, you're not visible. I wish I would see you. Because
it's just so... It's like, she could... I think Dan can switch, yeah.
Oh, there you are. Hello.
When she talks, yeah, then we'll switch to her.
Yes, let's switch to her, because I don't want you to be in... Hi, nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. It's been so amazing to listen to you so far. It's something that I've been craving to hear for so long from anybody, and it's just like it went straight into my heart. Everything you said.
Well, and I want to just acknowledge that you're also like, you're from Israel. You have family there. Like, you know, you're like, you have a right to speak about this. Like, this impacts you, and this impacts your family, your folks, and where you're from. But it's like, why is it that I'm supposed to care what a bunch of streamers and podcasters?
So
why is he fucking...
I think there's like a whole vortex of bad things happening. One, people are super disillusioned with like the media, so that nobody wants to get their news from the media. That's where suckers get their news. Also, like, we're at a point in American society when capitalism is really not at its finest hour. There's huge disparities, and a lot of people feel helpless, right? And they feel they don't see positive outcomes coming in the status quo. And I think a lot of people, leftist ideology, socialism, communism, Marxism, whatever, is becoming popular. And in this doctrine, in this worldview, it's very much oppressor, oppressee. I mean, I know that's almost become like a talking point, but it's genuinely just the truth. Is that they see the worldview doesn't allow them to see complications.
We're good now. This guy's not going
they'll look you in the face and say,
"Come to the bridge, though. Come to the bridge."
What's happening in Israel is not complicated. Israel's the bad guy. Hamas is the good guys. And like, they're incapable of doing that because in their worldview, there's the colonizer and there's the colonized. And it's up to the colonizers, the colonized to kill, take over, resist the colonizers. And there's just a really, I think that the amount of these people I hope to God that it's somewhat exaggerated because of how we perceive them. I mean, Twitter and TikTok and online, you see Hassan, who's become like,
Where's the hoof?
Was the number one political streamer until recently. But there's just a whole vortex of terrible conditions that's kind of, making people, scrambling people's brains, It's just, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of like introspection to go on there. I mean, like our government, our capital. I am a social democrat. I believe capitalism is a good system, but the way it's working right now is dysfunctional and it's not working. And so the people are feeling hopeless. And I think that's when you get these kinds of radical ideologies and these people who are just, so disillusioned that they're willing to kill.
I love that people are disillusioned, as they're fucking paying $100,000 a year.
Well, that's the ironic part, right?
To go to Columbia and Harvard.
The true irony.
As they're making millions from streaming.
Yeah. Well, that's the irony, right? And I feel like this is kind of common within communist revolutions too. Is that it's the bourgeoisie who, LARP as the proletariat and lead them, tells them how to feel and what they need to do, and they become the thought leaders to the proletariat, and it's almost like a sick joke. It's true. You see the people on the campus of Columbia, like you said, who are paying $100,000 a year because they come from like a multi-million-dollar, family led. Yeah, exactly. And they're the ones that are the most convicted about it.
Yeah.
I think there's also something else. I think there's a lot of generational guilt with what happened in Iraq and how America's conducted itself since 9/11. And I think there's a huge overreaction to that. Or overreaction, who can say, right? But I think there is a large influence on young people's minds who grew up learning like this was a terrible thing that we did. Millions of civilians died. It was all a lie. And it's become like
fucking knockback over the cliff.
It's become like American unexceptionalism.
Health warning.
It used to be American exceptionalism. Now it's everything in America is bad. It's
Hey, I said that.
It can't be salvaged. It's the worst. It's whatever it is. If it's American, it's the worst. It's unsalvageable, and we hate it. And these are people who are coming up from affluent families, and I think it's them feeling generational guilt for what America has done since 9/11. And like, again, that's an understandable feeling and perspective. But I think it's dangerous when a bunch of young people who have no life experience and no frankly actual perspective get so convicted by things that it draws them to radical behavior. And I think that's just what's happening, unfortunately.
Well, and to tie it all together, like, just to clarify, because I'm sure some are going to look at this conversation we're having and they're going to be like, well, you haven't said anything about the horror in Gaza and whatever. Like, of course we're horrified by what's taking place in Gaza. Of course we don't want the children starving. And, like, of course I care deeply about saving what remains of my family members. I lost the 2 childhood homes I grew up in. Our family lost everything, just like the rest of Gaza mostly has lost everything. The point is, number one, how can you...
I think the problem with the pro-Palestine movement is that they're much more America-focused than Jew-focused. So Jews happen to be America-coded. I think that's probably true in terms of what's in their heads, but they just can't escape the fact that like their targets are more likely to be Jewish, like even within America. Like that's twice now in a week, where the targets of anti-Zionist attacks in America have been against Jews. The Jewish woman, her partly, I guess, Jewish husband, because he had a Jewish dad, and then the crowd of people at the march.
Be a good advocate and a good custodian of this cause in the Western diaspora, in the world, so that you're not making it radioactive and toxic and pushing people away. And I would say this to kids, and they're like, you know, especially on Columbia, Students for Justice in Palestine. And they were like, well, first they blocked me. Second of all, they're like, we are not in the business of making our cause palatable to Zionists.
Yeah, I hear that.
Like they don't want to make it palatable. And I'm like, okay, so you're just going to make it tolerable then only to a bunch of lunatics in your like field? Like who are you going to appeal to?
Exactly. What is the end goal?
It's way worse than that, because all they do is empower people like fascist elements, conservative fascist right-wing elements that hate brown people, that hate immigrants, that fucking do whatever the fuck they want. And it's like, it's just so self-defeating. And
it is like you said, it's just pushing people away. Like, Ethan and I are totally on board. Like, we want to figure it out. We want free Palestine. We want all those things. And they're pushing us away like we are the devil. Like, you should see how they talk about us.
Oh, I'm sure he gets it just as bad.
And
Did you see the J Post article about the Boulder attacker? Yes. No. In my head, I was like, do I want to see it? What did they say? Did they say something spicy? Sounds like they said something spicy. Sounds like they got content.
and you
Yeah,
get it too.
I have no doubt.
So what
Yeah.
is the end goal? What are they actually working towards? I don't understand.
I
mean, it's like,
yeah,
but the other thing
New York
too, it's
Post.
like,
Oh,
it's
New York
like
Post, the
this is what
tabloid.
I said. Remember,
don't know.
there's
Would it matter?
activism, there's
Trust them?
advocacy, and then there's policy. A lot of times, policy makers are so far removed from the messaging of advocates and the community and activists and advocates. Advocates, however, are uniquely positioned where you kind of graduate from being an advocate, an activist that just yells and screams and says things that feel good, to actually caring about being pragmatic, actually caring about achieving things, because you're an interlocutor between the policy guys up here and the activists. And I'm not saying activists are the bottom of the ladder. I'm talking about the ladder of the bottom of the power of the ladder from a societal point of view. I'm simply talking about the ladder of power and access, influence, and change. From my perspective, advocates are somewhere in the middle, and the state of advocacy right now for the Palestinian people. I mean, how about the fact that if you're Jewish or pro-Israel or self-identifying as Zionist, you have a spectrum of organizations and things to be a part of.
Yeah.
You have J Street, you have Israel Policy Forum, you have AIPAC, you have the ADL, you have AJC, you have the Jewish Community Centers, you have the Jewish Federation, you have the Zionist Organization of America and the World Zionist Congress, and you have the Jewish National Fund and Jaffe and all this infrastructure. If you're, Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, and you want to express sentiments of support for the Palestinian people and channel your energies and have that be harnessed in a constructive, meaningful way, basically at a national level, all you have is Students for Justice in Palestine, much of which I think has devolved to just be a complete disaster. Or you have CARE, which is Muslim Brotherhood adjacent. That's basically your two options, is Students for Justice in Palestine that supports armed resistance as an option, or CARE. Not very compelling. And then it devolves into this permanent, look at the Jews and they have AIPAC and they control the Congress and they control the policies and they control this and that. And it's like, wait, last time I checked, Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims in the United States, cumulatively, are some of the most, I would argue, successful minorities in the United States, professionally, academically, and otherwise. Why hasn't there been, over the decades, any meaningful attempt at building either one piece of infrastructure or multiple pieces of infrastructure through which you vector young people's energies, through which you
why
teach?
is that? Why do you think that
why
is?
is that?
I mean, I have multiple theories about that. I'm in DC. I speak to people. I try to fundraise. I try to do this. Honestly, I think some of it is just petty communal divisions. I think some of it is genuine
I should
ignorance.
ask him if there's a KFC in fucking Gaza. Jesus. Ugh. Just like Luffy. I don't know. I think most of what this guy's saying is pretty agreeable. I feel like I identify quite closely with it. I just don't really know. I don't really know what to do with it. If you're like an activist or you want to inspire activists, I guess is what his position is, or he wants to realign and have a new movement. It's what do you want them to do? What should their goals be? What should their slogans be? What should their activism be? What should their tactics be? I just don't really know. For foreign people who care about Palestine in the United States, I don't really know what they're supposed to do. We know the SJP way is fucking useless, but yeah, what the fuck they do? Support Palestine without propping up Hamas. I mean in terms of like achieving something. Obviously I don't mean, I'm not talking about messaging. I'm saying like what to do. Try to influence politicians, Congress, like schools, universities. Fuck. Ask Grok. True. Organize, lobby. I love saying organize, yes. Just organize more. The more organized you are, the more the good things. Okay. Hopefully he spawns soon.
The fact that like there's so many people who like I talked to some folks in Silicon Valley or some folks in LA about trying to build up infrastructure here in DC to advocate for Palestinian rights in a sophisticated manner that can actually build infrastructure and harness some energies beyond the like free Palestine, and without the stupid, let's cover up with a kafia and do revolution and intifada, like to actually be sophisticated so that we have a greater chance of being heard and being influential.
Oh.
And one guy like didn't know what think tanks were. The other guy was like, he just kept bringing it back to how the Jews control everything, and like no matter what we do, the Jews will not. And these are like, this gentleman was like a multi-millionaire. And he was like interested, and he was telling me how he was disturbed by some of the messaging from college activists and campuses, and how harmful he thought. So then the other thing is like there were a few attempts at being pragmatic. There was something called the American Task Force on Palestine. And they were ruthlessly mauled by the community as being sellouts, and Rashid Khalidi was very much so part of the effort to try to take them down, to try to undermine them, to try to push.
Who were they? What was it?
It was basically an effort to try to have dialogue and communication with the Jewish community, but also to engage the Bush administration, Condoleezza Rice, to work within the U.S. system, both the executive and the legislative, but especially the executive, again, in an elegant, sophisticated way that could also act as an arm of, like, for the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian National Project in the United States, but to do so, again, in a, and I hate to use the word overuse the word sophisticated. It is not to, I'm not saying it in an elitist sense per se. I'm simply saying sophisticated as in not the trash we're seeing on like the street at college
not
campuses.
The black and white.
Like not the black and white.
What?
Not the like revolution intifada, like we're gonna all in this like cartoonish villain imagery that we see. No, like our people are proud, like show our faces. We're here, we're gonna be dressed up, we're gonna sit down with policymakers, and we're gonna talk about how we can work with the Jewish community. And this is even before, JVP was even a thing. Jewish Voice for Peace and some of these leftist spaces.
Damn, 40 seconds on the goal.
But that was
1 minute, 40 seconds on the goal. Chat. What a failure. What a bunch of goons. Absolute gooners. Too busy gooning to support my incredibly struggling but socially progressive and valuable stream. Wow. Degenerate. Where's... Hang on.
seen as a bridge too far for a lot of even for a lot of academics and a lot of even the business people in the Palestinian community. But that was like it started falling apart in 2006 to 2008. But
let's make a new one.
That's the problem with our community is the emotionality. It's the lack of true vision, the lack of like I've had people in other think tanks that talked about trying to get wealthy Arabs to
Hey,
and
Derek,
wealthy
back to 499.
Palestinians to invest in DC fellowships for young Palestinian professionals to learn about how does Congress work, how does the executive branch work, like to be involved, you know, in Washington, be here, go to the State Department, go, and that does happen, but that's individual family members who encourage their kids. That's not a lot of communal push and effort to say we're going to do this as a community, as part of a sophisticated infrastructure that harnesses our resources, our know-how, and that honestly, quite frankly, I think even if you were to do the aforementioned, then you're going to inevitably hit the messaging wall. What is the messaging wall? It's twofold. Can you work with Zionists? Can you accept working with Zionists and the mainstream Jewish organizations and Jewish community as allies, prospective allies, or even as a necessary evil, quote unquote? The second piece is, what are you advocating for? Like two states, okay. How is a Palestinian state going to be framed in a way that's advantageous to U.S. interests?
I really hate being on top of this fucking pinnacle. Look at the fall. It's such a deadly, disastrous fall. I hate it. I hate it so much. Everything could end in one fell swoop.
Palestinian state not going to be a platform for Hamas's terrorism? How's a Palestinian state not going to be sabotaged by the Iranian meddling? Iran, every day, Palestinian security forces in the West Bank, they foil attempts by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
No fall damage and shut up.
To send money, to send guns, to send, and I've seen, I have the receipts. I know the people who are involved in these efforts. Like, it does happen on a daily basis. Numerous plots are foiled.
That's another thing that I never see anybody here talk about, is the involvement of Iran and the funding.
Oh, completely. I mean, there is never going to be a free, stable Palestine while the Ayatollah's regime is still standing.
Yeah, there's a malicious, invisible hand pushing, you know, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis to, conflict, right? And it's...
But are you going to talk about that, like, again, do we have a cohesive Palestinian body or several bodies that is Palestinian American and Arab American and Muslim American bodies that aren't cut off all funding to Israel because we know in the near term that's not really a feasible, even if you disagree with it, you can withhold some particular aid packages or whatever, but overall you need to be defined by what you stand for, not just what you're against.
Right.
Of course we're against the Israeli military occupation, but is the occupation all of Israel, or is the occupation the 1967 borders? What are we going to do about, the settlements? Can we normalize the idea that Palestine will live side by side next to a safe and secure Israel? Make that a talking point in the Palestinian community, in the diaspora, and build power in DC.
Hey, Loner, I was in Pearl Street during the attack. Thanks for covering it. Oh, wow. What the fuck? Well, if you want to come on and tell us what you saw, then that might be valuable, but don't feel any pressure, okay? Glad you're safe. Jesus. Fuck. Okay.
And in the business community, and bring the totality of that to Washington. And I think you got yourself a very compelling piece of infrastructure. Instead, we're not only divided, but we're
invite this guy
reliant
to your
on a
stream.
bunch of academic
Yeah, you like him. I could do. Might do some digging into it. 'Cause I feel like talking to people like this is much more useful with disagreements because otherwise I would just be letting him talk for a while. He's more reasonable than most pro-pallies. Yeah, I know, but again, I don't really know. I've never really heard him say like, okay, say if you're an activist and you want to know what to do. I feel like this guy just wouldn't have a, would he have a good answer? I have no idea. Wait, which one are you in Discord? Alex Moon? Because your name is different in Discord. Doy the Dino, okay. Okay. And also... Oh, you want to hear Ahmed talk with Sev? I'll see how long this segment is so I don't make it, like, jarring.
Tarkin inspiration from Hassan and doing an escort quest.
Good one. Good memes. Mad fucker. They're almost done. I'll finish this and then it's 5 more minutes.
spaces that are utterly useless. They are basically 5 steps above Hamas in terms of the radicalization of young people, both Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, and Palestinian Americans, but also non-Arabs, people that are allies in applying, critical race theory, critical Palestine theory, mapping out Israel and Palestine to abortion rights, women's rights, immigrant rights, Black Lives Matter, the capitalism, anti-capitalism, anti-civilization, anti-this, anti-that, anti-like Western civilization. My point is, the Palestinian issue has become a dumping ground for all sorts of causes, issues, activists. And our community is not really in charge of leading this issue. Our community, and then the few leaders that we have, like that Nardine Kiswani in New York within our lifetime. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
You probably better. But just look it up, Nardine Kiswani. But the few Palestinian prominent voices, Nardine Kiswani, Susan Abul Hawa, Muhammad El Kurd.
I know him.
We have some horrendous online social media influencers and activists in the diaspora who might as well just get Israeli passports and work for the Israeli Ministry of...
You know, it's funny. We joked that Bad Empanada must work for the Mossad. Must be a Mossad plant because he does a lot of work to make the entire movement look worse. And so I think that's a good working theory right now.
I mean, I just, that's what I invite these guys, like, I just say, honestly, a bunch of them, they might as well, like, electronic intifada. Like,
those fucking...
Come on.
Yeah.
Kiswani protested the Nova Memorial in NYC. That's pretty retarded. Okay.
Come on. Just please, Israel, please do us a favor and give them a passport.
Just bring them on board.
These people are the best Hasbara, voices. Israel spends, and the Jewish community spend massive sums trying to promote the Jewish perspective and voices and narrative. Why waste your time? Just when you have a bunch of dumbass.
That's kind of what my point was with the shooter too. He's doing so much for the worst people. But we're running out of time here, so I want to ask you to close it up. I want to ask one, what are steps that we as people who want to do what we can to help, how do we kind of like resist push back on like Netanyahu and the psychotic forces coming out of Israel? And then how do we Are you have an organization? Are you part of a nonprofit? What do you do? Is there a place we can donate?
Yes, so let me start with the first one real quick. I mean, this works.
Wait, what
this
did he
only
say?
works. Like Ahmed, real quick.
Is there a place we can donate? And then, how do we? Well, are you have an organization? Are you part of a nonprofit? What do you do? Is there a place we can donate?
Is this the thing they said was fraud? Because they asked him, how do they support you? They want to support Ahmed, right? Oh, rare Bob. Ooh. Yeah, he wasn't saying, how do we support Palestinians? He was saying, how do you support you and your organization? This is what they called fraud. Okay, it's a total nothing burger based.
Yes, so let me start with the first
We'll see.
real quick. I mean, this works. This only works. Like Ahmed is only and pragmatic Palestinians are only successful if there are equivalent folks within Israel and within the Jewish community in the diaspora, especially Jewish Americans and Israeli Americans, because unfortunately both of our communities, believe it or not, are gripped by similar dynamics where the number of centrist, center left and center right Israelis that I speak to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they're like, Ahmed, what you're describing is exactly me when I try to say, look, guys, I hate Hamas, but like Smotrich saying we're going to concentrate the population 4 days ago, and he said we're going to concentrate the population down south so that Trump's plan works and they're all kicked out, basically bragging about ethnic cleansing. Like, I tell my Israelis friends, like, and family, this is terrible. Like we can't, like, as Israelis and as Jews, like, we have values. Like, we're a democratic country. Like, we can't get behind this. This is like a moral decay from within. And they're like, oh, you're self-hating. Like, you're worse than Hamas. You're terrible. Or when they push back on the fact that Netanyahu has stalled and dragged this out, etc. So, like, I would argue that it is the height of being a Jewish.
He asked him for his own donate thing, and he still hasn't even mentioned it. That is very funny. What the fuck? Pretty wild. Pretty fucked. Pretty gupped. All right.
Being a Zionist or an Israeli patriot.
Come on.
To call out. And you guys don't have the excuse, at least for us, we have the excuse of being under the boot of a terrorist organization, which is a legitimate excuse. You guys have democracy, okay? You guys have free expression that, yes, is sometimes being eroded by the police violence, but nevertheless, Israel's a free society. And so, and the discourse, the diversity of discourse within the Jewish community, my impression, having as an outsider, is part of the tradition, a long tradition, like 2 Jews, 100 opinion kind of jokes. So I strongly hope that there is a similar push by a multitude of pragmatic allies on the Jewish side to say, listen, we need to stop Hamas from seizing a lot of the aid and reselling it and making money off of it. But we can't do that if we're literally like stopping anything from going into Gaza for 2 months. People are clearly malnourished. We're seeing horrendous scenes. Israel's being turned into a pariah. Israel's being sanctioned by by France and UK and Canada and the Spanish parliament just passed a thing like Trump is like upset and saying wrap it up. Like, this is not going well for us, guys. Like, yes, we want to, like, something's got to give, So there are ways in which our allies can support us. Support the mutually beneficial realignment towards the center, towards pragmatism, towards moderation, as, again, not kumbaya, let's hold hands, everything's going to be fine, but as a realistic framework to bring down the temperature and to navigate what seems like a complete mess.
It seems like right now we just need to find a way to end the war, because everybody's just been pushed to the fringes, It's like
Well, we end the war,
yeah.
but we make sure we don't end it in a way that Hamas is still in control, because that's going to be a disaster for the people of Gaza. That's for another podcast. I will gladly come back and talk about different theories and works.
Oh, he's plugging
in fact,
another
I had like a
appearance. What a
4-hour
wise
discussion
guy.
with someone
Shit.
today on a workshop. So as I work at the Atlantic Council, where I am a resident senior fellow, but also I run Realign for Palestine through the Atlantic Council, and I have a we have like our own standalone website.
People are calling the FBI to call this fraud. That's fucking amazing. Oh, good luck, boys. May the best cunt win. Alright, let's finish one.
Realignforpalestine.org. There is a donate button. And yeah, so like you're certainly folks can donate there, but also I would encourage folks to consider the World Food Program has a Gaza Appeals page that is dedicated just for here, I'm going to give you the page that is dedicated for sending food just for Gaza, and they.
Did Teuton just what clips was Teuton seeing? Where has he got this page from? Realign for Palestine. No, not only did Teuton not mention this, he actually said that he didn't say anything about getting aid to Gaza. What was he saying here? Let's double check. So they just maliciously clipped it.
And yeah, so like you're certainly folks can donate there, but also I would encourage folks to consider the World Food Program has a Gaza Appeals page.
He recommended World Food Program. Oh God. Oh no, I don't. Poor Teuton. He's getting radicalized by these snark fucks. Where is he? Do I want to get him? Do I want to get him on? Oh no.
That is dedicated just for here, I'm going to give you the page that is dedicated for sending food just for Gaza, and they are incredibly capable.
Oh, that's great.
Capable.
What is that's
so
the world?
Yes, here, I just dropped it.
So send us both links so we can put them in the description.
Okay. I sent this link. So this is the U.S. This is the fundraising arm of the World Food Program, but all money here donated at this link goes to the World Food Program for Gaza specifically, and they're basically one of the biggest feeders of Gaza right now at scale. And then I'm going to send you. So yeah, so you can donate there if you want to feed Gazans, and I'll send you the Realign for Palestine website that I would love if people can explore. And as you navigate that website, there is there's an option to.
Can you Lena, are you? Can you donate 1,000 to each one of those orgs for us? And then I hope that other people will join in supporting your cause, and it's great to know that there's that
the World Food Program.
That's it. Yeah, that's really a good recommendation. Yeah,
I know those people for sure. They are like they're like they are getting food into Gaza right now.
That's great.
So wait, so obviously he got this off of a snark Reddit, or what if he got it off of Hassan's stream though? Does anyone know? Were there any clips of how Hassan characterized this? Because I heard that did this go all the way up to the top, to the general secretary of the retard resistance? Did it go all the way to him? Did he cover this in the same way? Is that where Teuton got it from, or was it just from a snark Reddit? Hassan read a snark post. Does anyone have clips? Or timestamps, preferably? So I can check context? What the fuck? It's so off. It's so off. Ah!
Those trucks that you hear about, that's all them.
Okay.
And that's what.
So there it is. I encourage everyone to support. We're gonna send some money to both of those orgs, and
thank you.
Thank you for calling and sharing your perspective. It's really nice to talk and to see you. And I've been an admirer for a while. I've been kind of seeing you here and there, so it's nice to connect.
And I do see you liking and re-sharing things on Instagram, and I have long before this been following. I mean, some of your guys' videos have kept me going through COVID.
Oh wow, thank you. That's so nice. Okay.
Completely.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you. Let's remain in touch, because I love getting your perspective on things, and I'm sure that there will be no lack of need for it. So
absolutely, man. Thank you, and thanks again for hearing me out, for the space, and for supporting the World Food Program and Realign for Palestine. Really
there it
appreciate
is.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. We'll talk soon.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
Have a great evening and a good weekend there. I appreciate it. There it is. That'd be Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib. And we're recommending the World Food Kitchen, which is really
World Food Program.
Like, what's the best way to get
confused with World Central Kitchen. Oh, rip.
So that's a good recommendation, and also supporting his org. And that is that's it. That's it. I mean, we've been going for a while. That was nice.
Very nice.
He really, I feel like people like that risk a lot. You know, and like he's talking about getting threats from like Al-Qaeda, like credible terrorist threats. And you know, you mentioned like how we're getting harassed. He is like at the center of all of it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. Putting yourself in the, you know.
It's not easy.
Thank you.
I'd love to, if we have him on again, I'd love to hear more about his story. And
I know,
like,
I didn't
how
get
did he make it out of Gaza into, I don't know, DC?
You mean Palestine racist? What?
See, he migrated to America when he was 15.
So this is where our boy
Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib, okay, is Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib, okay, is a propagandist for Israel.
His fucking accent.
Apparently, Ethan fucking had him on.
He's such a retard, man.
His broadcast.
So this might be.
And then literally turned around and made it seem as though they were fundraising. Told his audience that they were fundraising for Palestinians in Gaza. Okay. The fundraiser was for the Atlantic Council directly. All proceeds went to the fucking Atlantic Council. He presented it as though he was fundraising for the fucking Palestinians in Gaza. I cannot imagine something more gross than this.
And you can look at, so first of all, Ethan didn't ask him. Ethan didn't say, how do we support Gaza? He said, how do we support you? He goes on a tangent, Ahmed, and then he mentions Realign for Palestine, which is his website. But because Ethan said, how do we support you? And then he goes on to say this.
And so like you're certainly folks can donate there, but also I would encourage folks to consider the World Food Program has a Gaza Appeals page that is dedicated just for here, I'm going to give you the page that is dedicated for sending food. Just
World Food Program, by the way, famous Atlantic Council pro-Israel think tank, the World Food Program. Oh no, sorry, it's actually United Nations. I got that mixed up. I'm so sorry. World Food Program. Okay.
For Gaza. and they are incredibly capable.
Oh, that's
of
great. What is, that's
so
the
this
world?
is their arm. Yes,
World
And he
Food
spends so much longer talking about the World Food Program than he does talking about his own Realign for Palestine thing. Like, the bulk of his response is talking about World Food Program.
So
World
send
Food
us both
Program.
links so we can put them in the description.
I sent this link. So this is the U.S. This is the fundraising arm of the World Food Program, but all money here donated at this link goes to the World Food Program for Gaza specifically.
Okay. Very clarified. Okay.
And they're basically one of the biggest feeders of Gaza right now at scale.
There's really no ambiguity, is there? It's not even
close. So you
close.
can donate there if you want to feed Gazans, and I'll send you the Realign for Palestine website that I would love if people can explore. And as you navigate that website, there is there's an option to.
Can you Lena? Are you?
So that was a Palestinian who used to live in Gaza and has lost, I think, dozens of his family members in Israeli strikes, is deaf in one ear as a result, shouting out the World Food Program when he was actually asked, "How do we support you?" by Ethan Klein. But he still chose to respond, the bulk of his response, to make it about World Food Program, who are in fact actually UN and one of the biggest feeders in Gaza. Yes, that's true. And by contrast, okay, he, not to be confused with pampered United States fucking raised millionaire, gated community, spoiled, rotten, uneducated dipshit, accusing him of being an Israeli propagandist who was actually just pretending to fundraise for Palestine so he could get money for the State Department. In other words, Hassan's a fucking liar, okay? No, wait. Hassan's worse than a liar. He is a self-proclaimed political commentator, journalist, whatever hat he's putting on, getting duped by an insane person on the internet. Quit your fucking job, man. What an absolute fucking disgusting embarrassment of a fucking human being. Jesus Christ.
It is crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Different theories and works. In fact, I had like a 4-hour discussion with someone today on a workshop. So as I work at the Atlantic Council, where I am a resident senior fellow, but also I run Realign for Palestine through the Atlantic Council, and I have a we have like our own standalone website, realignforpalestine.org. There is a donate button. And
that was all the time he devoted to Atlantic Council, and then the rest of the time we just watched was him talking about World Food Program.
Like, you're certainly, folks can donate there, but also I would encourage folks to consider the World Food Program has a Gaza Appeals page that is dedicated just for.
All right, so that's just Hassan literally slandering someone who was asked how he could personally be supported, or his organization, and he actually devoted most of the response to talking about the World Food Program. That's Hassan just smearing someone who has committed the grave sin, as far as I could see from this talk, of not being a knuckle-dragging, brain-dead, fucking drooling Hamas supporter in June 2025. Like, okay. And for, I guess, speaking highly of the anti-Hamas protesters and covering them appropriately. Because a crazy person told him to. A person that Hassan knows is crazy. Fucking liars, man. Disgusting fucking freak liars. Ugh! Yeah, well, is what it is. Rip. I can't believe our movement is not achieving anything. It's almost as if we have no fucking idea what we're talking about. Anyway, if someone wants to clip that for Twitter, they can, because that's actually quite insane. That's, like, incredible. It's unbelievable! Fuck! All right, 1 second. I need to check something at my door because I got a delivery today, but They only gave me half of it, but they've said the whole thing's delivered. Well, yes, I will talk to the Colorado guy in the waiting room when I get back. Yes. Yes, boys. Stop ordering drugs. Shut up! Meme, thanks for the $4.99. Hassan be like, I wonder what clip disinformation I'll be linked in Discord today to believe in. Yeah, he's just such a disgusting freak. I can't... Okay, whatever. Actually just makes me... What's the point? Barbas, thanks for $5. Would definitely like to maybe see a charity stream with Ahmed discussing real issues. Anyone else? Well, listen, one of these days, eh?